Hello everybody and welcome back, where today we're reviewing a product. I do this from time to time and I just love reviewing physical things, and today it's this, which is another gun stock. Now, we covered the Pro Tube a little while ago and I really like that stock. It was magnetically based. It was kind of your traditional VR gun stock, where you think of how VR gun stocks work, you think of the Pro Tube, you think of Cobra VR and stuff like that. But today's gun stock is a little bit different to those two. Now, traditionally, you use magnets to attach your controllers to a gun stock, but today we have pure kind of friction and kind of clipping in, which is an interesting development. Now, this is the Armory R1, an injection molded plastic gun stock with a 3D printed clamp for the PSVR2 controller. And ultimately, it's a gun stock that I've had a bit of a roller coaster journey with over the last week or so, where I've been testing it. But I've landed on my decision of how I feel about this thing, and ultimately, it is very positive. So, let's talk about it. But before we do, only 25% of you are subscribed to the channel, so if you feel like subbing, please feel free to do so. And thank you to our patrons and YouTube members who bring this content straight to you and make all this possible each and every day. So the Armory comes in at about $90 on pre-order at the moment. It's not available to buy and ship to you right now, but it will be fairly soon, I think. And on pre-order it's $90, I think that's without shipping. That'll probably translate to around like 70 odd pound here in the UK, maybe 60. And then after launch, after the pre-order window is over, that'll then go up to about $120, which, to be honest, is about the same as I've seen some other gun stocks land at, except those gun stocks are all 3D printed, whereas this is plastic injection molded. Now, we'll have a little talk about what that actually means in terms of how it feels and how it performs and its weight. But first and foremost, let's take a look at the unboxing experience. Now, I can't say whether this will be the final unboxing experience because I've been sent a pre-release version of the gun stock, essentially. But straight out of the box, everything comes packaged in there, all the tools that you need to tighten everything, even though there aren't really that many tools you do need to tighten everything. An Allen key will do you just fine, but luckily everything is included in there. You get the adapter for the PSVR2 controller. If you want this for Quest or any other platform, you'll essentially be able to get an adapter for them. The Quest one is also injection molded like the rest of the stock is, but the PSVR2 adapter and I think the other controller adapters are 3D printed. It's the only 3D printed part of the whole gun stock, and as a new user to this, I had some mixed thoughts at the start, but I'm pretty positive about this adapter now after a little bit of testing with it. But ultimately, yeah, the assembly process is pretty simple. There's a video that I'll link in the description below by Armory that kind of talk you through each of the steps of how to get this thing actually together, mainly attaching the different segments and getting these aligned so that when you actually shoulder this thing, it feels pretty good. A quick rundown from front to back. We have a front grip here, and you'll notice there's no attachment point for your second controller because the Armory doesn't actually have two magnetic points. You have this friction or clip-in point here where you're snapping your controller, which we'll talk about in a second, and then your other controller, your offhand, simply rests on the front here, which I didn't really think was going to work too well. The best experiences I've had with gun stocks were really solid, rigid feeling, snap-in magnets on either end. But to my surprise, this works really well. If you're, say, using an assault rifle in a VR game like Pavlov or Breaches, you can have it down in this foregrip style. If you're using a shotgun, you can rotate it up, and there you go. You can now get that shotgun motion while still being able to rest your controller at the front and stabilize yourself. That's why this ends up being a very versatile gun stock compared to the others that I've used. Moving further along, we've got two brackets, one up here to adjust where the foregrip is, and then the second one down here to adjust basically the length between the stock and your PSVR2 controller. At the back here, you've got an adjustment point there for your stock, kind of to lift it up and down. I opted to have it pretty high up, and you have a padded area at the back here, which acts as a rest for your cheek. Now, this is adjustable up and down, and then when you want to store it away, you can twist it and push it down, get it out the way for storage, which is perfect. So physically, it's pretty good. Weight-wise, it feels really light, and I'm a little bit torn on this because the other gun stocks that I've used were definitely heavier than this. I think they were full like carbon. This is a mix of injection plastic and carbon. For example, the Pro Tube felt a little bit more solid than this. There was less flex to it, but ultimately this comes in much lighter feeling than a lot of the other stocks that I've used, which is ultimately a good thing. It doesn't feel like it's going to snap or anything like that. If I put some proper like pressure into it, it's not going to go anywhere. But yeah, it is fairly light, and I think that's a very good thing. Now, before we get on to how this thing actually performs in game, let's talk about getting it set up and actually operating this thing in terms of getting your controllers in there. Now, I've got quite a bit of footage of me actually trying to mess about with this thing, and at first it was actually quite scary because attaching this is not the most kind of intuitive thing at first. I was watching a lot of tutorials, and fellow reviewer Games with T also put out a review of this, which I had a look at, as a bit of a reference because I was having a bit of trouble kind of clipping the controller in at first. Also, shout out to Games with T, I'll link him down below because he actually set me up with the guys that make this to take a look at it. So this video wouldn't be here without him. Because it is just literally 3D printed, there's no real flex here to kind of like open this and get your controller in. You simply have to kind of snap it in place. So you rest it at the back, you kind of get it lined up, and then you twist in, and it just snaps in like that, which is fairly easy. Really simple to do. Honestly, if you do mess it up, I have a feeling it might warp the plastic in the controller, which I was scared about. But if you watch a couple of videos and just kind of practice and be careful, you'll be able to get it down pretty quickly. And then after a couple of tries, getting the controller in there is simple as. And then, as you can see in some of the footage I've been showing you, you can then place your second controller wherever you want in terms of kind of stabilizing. If you want to flip it up, there you go. And you've got your gun stock. This basically leaves your left hand up here free to do whatever you want, whether that's adjust your sights or take out a magazine or throw a grenade. I honestly have not used a gun stock like this before, and I really love the way that this thing operates because of that. Taking it out of here is a bit of a different story. It's a lot scarier. But essentially on this side, there's a bit of a tab that you can kind of pull down over here. And then once you do that, it's pretty easy just to kind of twist out the controller. Again, it was really scary when I first did it because you can feel the controller kind of creaking a little bit. And to be honest, I had the same with a lot of the other gun stocks that I've used. When using the tightening methods combined with the magnets on them, you hear the controller kind of creak and flex, and it feels like you're going to damage it, but I haven't damaged anything on my controller since using this. It is just kind of scary at first. But after a little while, you do really just get used to kind of like popping it in and then straight in. And then when you want to get it out, you pull that tab and then straight out again. Pretty easy. As with a lot of the stocks though, it's a learning curve. However, while there is a bit of a learning curve to getting the controller actually in there, once you're sorted, there is no learning curve to using this. That's where we'll get onto the actual operation and gameplay of this thing in terms of using it in game on PSVR2. Now, over the past week or so where I've had this, I've used the gunstock in a lot of games. Pavlov, Breaches, Starship Troopers Continuum, Crossfire, Firewall Ultra, and it's worked great in all of them. You're always going to get the best results in terms of gunstocks with games that have offset controls, so being able to kind of adjust the pitch of where your controller actually is and the gun is in game. But all those games worked pretty flawlessly with it, and I managed to get a lot better results than I did without. Breaches especially is a game where I really feel the difference. Being able to really snap on people and take them out with headshots is a lot easier with a gunstock like this. And as we said before, the learning curve of getting the controllers in here is the only learning curve you have. For example, with other VR gunstocks, you're locked in with magnets on both ends, meaning that when you want to reload, you unclip the magnet from the front, get a magazine, load it in, and then you have to kind of find the magnet again and clip back in. Not with the Armory. With the Armory, you're free at the front here, so you can still kind of keep yourself locked in, aiming, but when you want to reload, there's nothing to clip out or in of. You're simply free to move. It's such a simple thing, but it's something that I've never seen done before. And in terms of how it works with the Armory, it's flawless, it's utterly fantastic, and I've really loved using it. So, overall, I'm really impressed with this thing. Build quality is a good balance between feeling premium and light. The price, I think, is fairly competitive. I will say at the start, again, clipping on the controllers feels a little bit scary, but once you get the angles down, which is the most important bit, it gets pretty easy to do, and you get a lot more confident with snapping it in and out, and you're not really going to damage anything. In terms of comfort and adjusting different parts of the stock, there's a lot to love here in terms of where you want your cheek rest to be, where you want your foregrip to be, and what height of the stock you want. They're really easy to adjust with these massive tabs as well. So once you kind of get it all set up and assembled, you don't need to get those Allen keys out again. You just need to twist these elements on the stock to adjust, which is great. As for versatility in game, it's the best I've ever used, I'd say. I know some people are going to really love their magnetic gun stocks, and I do get that. I do see the benefit to those as well because there is a bit more stability than this, but being able to just simply take it offhand away is a game changer. So overall, yeah, I've really loved the Armory R1. It's been a fantastic addition to my PSVR2 accessory collection, and I will be recommending this going forward to anybody who wants a gun stock for the headset. It's been fantastic, I've loved it, and I'll continue to use it whenever I play any PSVR2 shooter games. Lastly, thank you to you once again for being here and supporting the channel, and I hope to see you all in the next one.